It's been revealed that weapons sent to Jordan by the CIA and Saudi Arabia for Syrian rebels have been consistently stolen and sold on the black market. That's according to a new report based on testimonies from unnamed American and Jordanian officials to the New York Times and Al Jazeera. RT's Guyane Chichikan went to get official comment from Washington on this potential scandal.
The report itself cites unnamed U.S. and Jordanian officials with sources in the FBI saying they believe some of the stolen weapons were used in a shooting that killed 2 Americans and 3 others in November at a police training facility in Jordan. Jordan has been a key post from where the CIA and other intelligence services have provided weapons and training for the Syrian rebels. The White House didn't have anything more to say on the subject than go to the State Department. Here.
In terms of the International Police Training Center, that is a center that has been stood up to promote training for the Jordanians and international security forces. That's a center that's supported by our State Department. So if you have questions about that center, the State Department would be point for you on that.
We went to the State Department and it stonewalled all questions on the consequences of covert weapon supplies.
We have no comment on that report. There is an ongoing investigation.
The CIA does not comment either on its covert transfers of weapons, and yet it is a U.S. government policy. Who else should we ask about this?
As I said, I have no comment on that.
It's not the only red flag out there. For example, last September, the Pentagon acknowledged that the Syrian rebels that it trained gave at least a quarter of their weapons cache to al-Nusra. How many red flags do there have to be for the U.S. to stop arming rebels?
So we're going to leave it where I left it. Matt?
She was touching on a really good point.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why the U.S. government should be in the business of providing weapons to anyone who is not a part of a nation state's military? Because it seems every time that some rebel group gets its hands on U.S. provided weapons, they end up in the wrong hands.
I know you'd like a comment on it, Roz. I just can't.
So U.S. officials refuse to answer whether the weapons ending up in the hands of extremists is a consequence that the U.S. is willing to accept in order to prop up rebel forces in Syria.
Speaking of consequences, these are what have reportedly flooded onto the black market after the theft. The CIA Saudi shipments under the Arm and Train program included Kalashnikov rifles, mortars and rocket-propelled grenades, all of them adding up to worth millions of dollars. But the Jordanian officers who were part of the corrupt scheme were reportedly using the proceeds to buy, SUVs, iPhones and other luxury goods. International lawyer and former CIA officer Jack Rice says the U.S. regrettably has a long history of supplying weapons that typically go straight into the wrong hands.
I can go back decades now when I think about operations, and frankly, what this is reminiscent of is Mujahideen. And take a look at exactly what was going on with the Central Intelligence Agency and with Afghanistan, and the inability to control the weapons once you hand them over to somebody else. This has always been a problem for the United States. These were supposed to go into Syria and into northern Iraq. That doesn't mean that's where they end up. They could end up in Western Europe, they could end up in Eastern Europe, they can end up in southern republics, they can end up in Moscow. We really can't tell, because once you let go of a weapon, it can end up just about anywhere.